The third set of the day will be played on Newkirk. Our Terran player in the red from SK Telecom. He's spawning in the bottom left-hand position, and his name is Fantasy.
A lot of people out there might have predicted that this player might not make it to set number 1, but currently he has 2 kills against SK Telecom T1, going for a third kill of the day. His name is effOrt, spawning as Blue Zerg on the right bottom position of the map.
So Fantasy, he's been getting a little bit overshadowed, I feel, by his Protoss teammates because there's just so many of them that they can get consistently sent out here. But I think that they realized effOrt. We may need to grab a Terran, the snipe off effOrt in the third set before things get a little bit too out of control.
And also do remember that SK Telecom T1, they were known for their Terran lineups back in the days. Boxer, Alabuv, and even Fantasy supporting the cast, but in Starcraft2, we just haven't seen that many strong Terran players from SK Telecom T1. Fantasy making a comeback after going on a 9-game losing streak in Pro League earlier this season and just recovering from that. Now 21-17 this season, but 5-5 against Zerg players.
I noticed you were listing some SK Telecom Terrans, but you didn't mention Kanata.
I mean, Kanata, yes, he did get some Pro League wins, and he was famous from SK Telecom T1. He was the captain, but he didn't have as a huge impact compared to the triple combo, the Boxer, Alabuv, and Fantasy.
I know, but I wanted to mention his name specifically because he is a SPO TV caster as well. So
that is true.
He's one of the Korean casters for our Pro League, one of our counterparts. We have a command center first opening from Fantasy here. effOrt going for the hatch first into Extractor. We'll get his pull down afterwards, so you know, decently greedy build here, but still getting that gas early on.
You know, we were talking about effOrt's CVT last time around, and we said, well, effOrt, he's gonna have fantastic micro against the Water Mines, but he has a little bit harder time defending against drops.
That's true, and on the other hand, it seems like Hydra is the one who has the issues when it comes to the Widow Mines.
Yeah, we are all talking about the match against Innovation a few days ago, and effOrt, as long as he defends against the medevac drops and as long as he doesn't crumble to those medevacs, then he can still win the game, but the problem is, does he have an answer against it?
The medevacs can be a bit cumbersome to deal with from the Zerg point of view here. Protoss players have gotten a lot better at defending against the drops, I feel. Sometimes the Hellbat drops can be annoying, but from the Zerg side of things, it can be a bit more difficult overall, I feel. Fantasy getting an SCV now in effOrt space, just seeing what's going on here. He spots that gas as well, and behind this, no tech yet. Looks like he almost has enough money for that factory, though.
Just enough, but we're gonna have to see how he opens up. Double orbital out on the way, the SCV leaving means that it's most likely gonna be a factory.
I can't actually remember the last time Terran didn't go for a barracks then factory immediately afterward. Maybe they'll get like a Reaper or something, but you always have that factory there.
Yeah, factory is the choice. It's the tech of choice for Terran players these days in this particular matchup, especially since going for the Hellions and going for early pressure is nice against the Zerg players, and it's so easy to tech into Hellbats and go for the Hellbat drops.
It actually reminds me of back in the earlier days of Starcraft2, Wings of Liberty era, when players like SC from FXO would just make like so many barracks on the map and just constantly attack their opponent over and over.
Behind this, an early third base by Fantasy.
And he's also getting a Widow Mine behind this as well. Zergling speed about the complete for effOrt here, but just droning up right now, not grabbing a third base yet.
So as soon as he sees the third command center go down, he's going to throw up his third hatchery immediately.
Yeah, I like that decision. I also like the way that Fantasy is walling off here. He's using that command center as part of the wall.
Yeah, excuse me, the command centers are really strong, 400 HP, and also...
Command centers don't have 400 HP, man. Yeah, they don't. They actually have like 1,500 or something.
Why did I just say 400?
I don't know. Well, the supply defense...
400 minerals. I was thinking 400 minerals. It's like for 400 minerals, you get a 1,500 HP.
Oh,
and it's really strong, and you could also lift and land it later.
The bunkers have 400 HP, though.
Yeah. A little screw up, but hey, part of the wall.
YOLO. Alright, we have 2 Hellions on the way from Fantasy here. The Roachborn on its way from effOrt. He's getting a few Zerglings as well. Could see some aggression from him here, maybe some Roach Baneling attacks, very possible here. And the Zerglings do spot the Hellions, but they're just moving across the map now. And we have Stim on the way from our Terran side as well as he continues that Hellion production. efOrt's third hatchery about to finish up as well.
The Widowmine position is really interesting. It's really close to the supply depot right now. And I think it's actually almost invisible, especially since the orbital command is finished. So that positioning is actually nice. The wall is
cool, man.
Wall is pretty good. And it also hides the Widowmine, so even if effOrt pokes in and tries to see where the Widowmines are, he can't see where they are.
That's actually like so cool that he's doing that. This reminds me of when you would lift up an engineering bay in Brood War and put a missile turret under it, or even sneakier, some spider mines.
Yeah, but looking at the number of roaches, and Fantasy is expecting some kind of counter push from his opponent effOrt, so he's building 2 additional bunkers, getting the Marauders out, and even repositioning the Widowmine.
Well, the thing is, when Zerg players started learning how to deal with the Widowmines, they just figured out we just have to get some roaches early on. And this has kind of made Terran players have to play a little bit safer, which means they get a few bunkers up earlier on, and they play more defensive in the early to mid-game time until they can get that starport out and start dropping their opponent. And the thing is, they can just sell off those bunkers. It's not a big deal.
+1/+1 out on the way for both of our players as effOrt takes up to 6 gases. Hellions still moving around the map trying to see if there's any gaps in efOrt's defense, or trying to kill some few free units around the map, but there isn't any. effOrt is just sitting inside the main base comfortably well.
The interesting thing here is efOrt's building a lot of Zerglings at this point, but he's going for the range attack upgrade
because he's going to go because he loves to go for Roach Hydra.
Yeah, he does. That's something that we see more from CJ Zergs than anyone else. They like to go for that Roach Hydra style. Sometimes they'll mix it up a little bit. We have the Hydra Den going down here, so it is going to be that Roach Hydra army composition.
What's really interesting about this build is that if the Terran player does not scout the unit composition, and if effOrt only shows Zerglings until he gets to a critical number of Roaches and the Hydras, the Terran player might die. But the thing is, Roaches and Hydras, they're so slow to defend against the metabacks.
Yeah. They are. That is the weakness of the Roach Hydra army composition. You need to have a lot of spores and spines properly positioned around the map. Maybe even some units just ready to defend against the drops if you want to properly deal with it.
Well, effOrt not droning up as of this point, getting up to 16 Hydras at the same time. Fantasy still trying to scout around, trying to see if I look at this Zergling run by.
Nice Zergling run by here. Going to activate the Widowmines, trying to get them to run into the bio here. Not going to work though. Fantasy dealing with this pretty well. I think maybe only a few SCVs went down in that position. The Hydras are now out though. effOrt up to 142 supply to the 118 of Fantasy, so he's looking pretty solid from that angle in the game. The Hydra range just about to complete here, as well as the 1-1 for both players.
And Fantasy does not know about the Hydras at this point. Now he's going to pull back.
Realizing what's going on here, he is forced to retreat. effOrt may just go for a big attack here. He does have the range advantage as well. And the unit composition for Fantasy is not the proper unit composition to deal with this. He doesn't have any siege tanks in the army.
Yeah, well, look at this. The Roaches in the front. They're going to tank the Widowmine damage while the Hydras are doing a lot of damage from the back.
Now, the issue is the Hydras, they need to have those Roaches in the front so they can properly deal their DPS. And it looks like the numbers are still very strong for our Zerg player here. Roaches continuing the reinforced Fantasy. Could he fall to this attack? It looks like he is forced to retreat here. The bunkers are doing their best to be completed here, but I think this command center, it's getting low on health.
Command center is getting low, but efOrt's not target firing. He should have gone for the Marines or command center. Only one of those two instead of splitting up the army.
effOrt is now up 150 supply to 100. The command center from Fantasy is retreating. The bunker goes down. There's still a lot of units here for Fantasy,
really nice.
But is it going to be enough? It doesn't look like it. effOrt pushing through, continuing to reinforce with the units. And Fantasy on his last legs here. If he can defend, he'll be able to stabilize here, but effOrt, that just gives him more time to regroup and make more units. He's continuing to stream everything that he has across the map, and I don't think it's going to be enough from Fantasy, now forced back into his natural.
The problem is Fantasy could not take out the Hydras in time, and The Roaches, they can get taken out one by one with the Marauders, but the Hydra's doing a lot of damage from the back. Roaches in the front tanking every single damage. The Bulker gets taken out, and now effOrt enters the Natural.
The Natural is under attack. SCV is off the mineral line. Continued Roach and Hydra production from effOrt. He is continuously sending those units across the map here. The only thing the Fantasy has left at this point is a few Marines and Medivacs that are out of energy. They're slowly getting picked off by these Hydras as well, and now the Natural Fantasy, it's starting to slowly crumble here. He needs to try to get enough units in his main base, but the problem is effOrt, he has so much reinforcements on the way here, going for that 2-2, and eventually he's just going to overrun the Terran.
Yeah, so Fantasy barely getting some Marines out trying to defend against this, but that's too many Roaches streaming in, and he actually cannot push down the map trying to defend the Natural. GG! effOrt gets the early 3-0 lead against SK Telecom T1.
Wow. effOrt, he hit his Hydras very well. He made Lings earlier on and showed them. He completely fooled his opponent, and then he went for a big attack. Fantasy simply did not have the right units to deal with that. If he had 1 or 2 siege tanks on the high ground, it could have been a completely different game, but we didn't see that. So now, we're in a weird situation where SK Telecom is behind CJ Entis 0-3.
So can the last player from SK Telecom T1 go for the reverse all-kill, or can effOrt finish him and get an all-kill for himself?
We will find out after this commercial break.